Click and go live. Okay. I think it's okay. I think this is now live, or just about. Okay. Hi there, everyone. Thank you for tuning in and being here today. I'm Sam. If you know, I'm here with fellow author Mikaela Miller to talk about reading, writing, publishing, and more. Hi, Mikaela.
Hi.
Thanks for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Glad to have you. Mikaela has written, I believe, a couple novels. Is that right?
Yep.
I think mostly in the fantasy genre, including Beyond, Relatively Normal, and War Games. But I'll let her tell you more about those in just a minute. I'm grateful that Mikaela has graciously agreed to be here with us today and answer some more questions. So as always, I do have some questions prepared, but I also want to make this an interactive discussion. That's what I like about the live feature. If anyone's watching along, either friends of mine or fans of Mikaela, or maybe both, ask your questions in the comments, or just aspiring writers who want to learn from us, learn from her and what she's done. Ask your questions in the comments, post comments, feedback, everything. If you're watching today, if you're a fan, a reader, an aspiring author, whatever, we want to hear your questions too about reading, writing, and publishing, fantasy fandom, or any of those topics. So don't be afraid to chime in, and we want to hear from you too. But okay, Mikaela, thanks again for joining us. For those who are unfamiliar, can you give us a quick overview of your major works, the series you're working on, the books you published, that kind of thing?
Sure. So it is a dark fantasy retelling of such fairy tales as Jack and the Beanstalk, Alice in Wonderland, Little Red Riding Hood, and Peter Pan. It is it follows Jack and Red, obviously from Jack and the Beanstalk and Little Red Riding Hood. As Jack accidentally grows a beanstalk in the real world, and they attempt to fix it on their own and end up in Wonderland, and eventually end up in Neverland and can't escape.
Okay. So you said Jack and the Beanstalk, Red Riding Hood, Peter Pan. What was the fourth one? Was there a fourth
Alice in Wonderland.
Alice in Wonderland. Okay. And they're kind of all intermingled together in this fantasy world. That's cool. And you have two books out right now, right? First is Beyond, Relatively Normal. Yep,
that's the first one.
And second is War Games.
And
you're working on more, I assume.
Yes, I'm still editing book 3, but book 3 is called Beyond Neverland.
Okay, I'll ask you about that later, about future stuff. But okay, so it's definitely fantasy. Would you say high fantasy, I guess, or kind of fairy tale fantasy?
Yeah, I don't know if I would call it high fantasy. It's not. It's not really close to Lord of the Rings level or anything like that.
So it takes place in kind of the real world, but there's magic and such too.
Yes.
And there's Neverland and fantasy worlds and things like that. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Very fun. I know a lot of us out there are fans of fantasy, so there's always more ways to tell and retell those classic stories. How did you get interested in fantasy in the first place? Like, what are some of your favorite books or movies or stories that have inspired you?
I mean, it really started when I was 5 or 6, when I got my first Harry Potter book. And I just wanted to grow up and be just like J.K. Rowling, right, in the fantasy genre. I've kind of grown out of my Harry Potter stage now, but she was a huge influence on my writing growing up.
Sure. We never quite forget the ones who started to influence us first. Yeah. Okay. What else do you like these days then?
I'm mostly reading manga these days. I haven't been doing a ton of reading, and I do a lot of horror. I've been reading Stephen King and his son Joe Hill. I just finished The Heart-Shaped Box recently, by Joe Hill. And I'm really into the horror genre. I just bought Flowers in the Attic the other day, so hopefully I'll finish or start that soon.
Okay. I haven't read King yet. I've been told I should. I have his book on writing. I know that's different from his other stuff, but yeah, I'll get there eventually maybe.
Yeah.
And I know Harry Potter is a good example of like existing in the real world, kind of, but there's magic, and there's this whole magic subculture. So I can see how you might be influenced by that. You mentioned it's a dark fantasy. Like, what do you mean by that? Is it, I guess, more for teens or adults, or?
Definitely for older teens. It mentions a lot of drug use and suicidal
Sure.
ideation.
Things that real people deal with.
Yeah. And there's a lot of horror based in H.P. Lovecraft.
Okay, yeah, I was going to ask if you're
Inspired.
reading horror, does your horror influence your writing some?
Yes.
Okay, I've read some
Yes.
Lovecraft, and yeah, he's the big name, other than Poe, I guess. But yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Okay, very cool. So a good mix of things there. You kind of already answered this, but I'm going to ask what your biggest influences were, like, other than just getting you into fantasy in the first place. Are there any authors or stories that you like specifically were inspired by, or that you were trying to emulate? I guess Lovecraft was among them.
Yeah, a lot of Lovecraft. I read the original Peter Pan. I
Okay.
didn't stick with a lot of the Disney themes. The original Peter Pan
Sure.
is a lot darker.
I imagine
so
yours is very
wanted
different
to,
from. Yeah.
yeah, a lot different.
I haven't read the original, and I know it's been told and retold and everything like that. So I mean, I guess obviously you have been inspired by the stories that you're basing them off of. But you're putting your own twist in it. I think it's interesting. Like two of those, or you mentioned Jack and the Beanstalk, and I'm trying to remember them all. And Riding Hood, those are more fairy tales. Like I mean, we don't know who the original author was.
Right.
And in comparison, Peter Pan and Alice in Wonderland are relatively recent. I mean, they're still a couple hundred years old, but like they were both books written by people who we know of, J.M. Barrie and Lewis Carroll, and but they've just become part of our cultural mythos of fairy tales, I guess. And now we can kind of combine those into this cultural consciousness of the fantasy world.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. It's cool here doing that. Okay. Now I'll shift gears a little bit. If you tell us about your works, so fantasy fans can take note. But I wanted to ask you one of the biggest questions in all of our minds: how do you find the time to write while holding a day job and a life? Because I know you work, right?
I do. Yeah, I'm at work right now.
Yeah, I saw your Facebook. You work in a veterinary office, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, is it fun?
Yes, I love it. It's the best job I've ever had.
Awesome. Working with animals. Do you like actually take care of the animals and things like that?
Yeah, I get them checked in, help with nail trims, things like that.
Okay. Is it mostly dogs and cats, or have you had like any really like unusual pets?
We do get unusual pets. We only have one exotic doctor though, so but he sees pretty much everything. We've got ferrets, snakes. We've had a turkey come in before.
Okay. Wow.
Yep.
Pet turkey. I hadn't heard of that before. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard of people have pet snakes. It's uncommon, but I know it happens. But yeah, okay, that's fun. Yeah, but I know I'm sure it's a different world than you're writing a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, some of us, like some of the people I've talked to, we have had jobs like that are kind of related to writing. Like I was an English teacher for a while. Now I'm writing for a nonprofit, and stuff like that. And yours, like on the surface, it doesn't seem like it's connected, but it's cool that you have multi talents, multiple different interests. But
yeah.
But has your work affected your writing at all? Do you think, like, influenced anything?
Well, I just moved a few months ago, so I'm still kind of adjusting to life up here. I haven't had as much time to write, but I usually can get my writing done on my lunch breaks. That's usually when I feel most productive. And then I only work 4 days a week, so I have a little bit more time than I did at my last job.
That's good. Okay. Yeah, it's a balance. Everyone talks about that. I mean, it's a struggle to when you have a day job, and it's even if it's a good job, which sounds like yours is. Yeah. But it's it's still not like doing your dream of writing. It's like, how do you do both? I'm glad you're managing that. So
Yep.
yeah, and I know moving can throw you off. We moved a couple years ago, and I that totally threw off my writing schedule for at least a couple months. But where are you located now?
In Virginia, Roanoke.
Yeah, I miss Virginia.
Oh. I think it froze. Can you still hear me?
Moving to the period of adjustment, and then working on a new schedule and all that stuff. But there you go. I think I lost you for a second. It says my connection's unstable, but hopefully we'll keep working. So okay. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you're making it work. You're doing what obviously working a day job while pursuing your dream of writing, and which I assume is hopefully. I mean, are you hoping like one day to make a career out of it, or is that the dream at least, or just kind of doing it along the way?
I'm hoping eventually.
Yeah.
I'd like to go traditional publishing if I can, just because I'm not very good at marketing.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I would like to. Well, I mean, that's the dream. I haven't achieved it yet, but yeah, a lot of us are doing that. Okay. What is your biggest strength in the craft of writing, or what is the one thing you think your stories do really well?
I've been told I'm really good at character development.
Good. Okay.
I am really self-conscious and don't like to hype myself up much, but
Hey,
I feel like that is a strong suit.
Okay. I mean, today's interview is to spotlight you. So I mean, I know marketing is uncomfortable for some of us. It's hard to get into it first, but this is the time to hype yourself up. You can tell us what you think is the best, or what other people have told you. Yeah, no worries. So character development. I guess you said your two main characters are Jack and Red.
Yep.
I mean, maybe there's more to come into it over time, but like, how do you create your characters? Like, do you have a process for developing them, or does it just come naturally?
It kind of just comes naturally. I didn't sit down and plan out their lives or anything. Okay. They just kind of tell me things about themselves, I guess.
So you're not a plotter in advance? No. Okay. Some of us are, not everyone is. So yeah, everyone has a different strategy. Okay. And I know these are like, I mean, in a sense, they're familiar characters, like Jack and the Beanstalk, Red Riding Hood. But I assume you've made them different for your world. Like you've given them their own stories and their own personalities and such, right?
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about, I guess, your versions of the character? Like, what are they like? What's what's their personality or anything like? Right.
Jack is, I kind of kept close to the original where he lives with his mom. He's in a single parent household, struggling financially. Not that popular in school, doesn't really have a lot of friends.
The underdog, classic.
Yeah, and he doesn't really have a great relationship with his mom. She's kind of abusive towards him. Just like we kind of get hints of that in the original fairy tale, depending on which version you look at.
Sure.
He's not very sure of himself a lot of the time. He's just been in a toxic environment his entire life, so he struggles.
He's the underdog who's come from a tragic backstory, maybe, or at least sad beginnings or whatever.
Yeah.
Hopefully transcends some of that. I'm sure he does throughout the story.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What about Red?
So she is. I was having a hard time with her, but she kept pushing and telling me that she was Native American, and so she's come from a Native American household. She's, as compared to Jack, she's had a pretty good upbringing, good relationships with her parents, obviously a good relationship with her grandmother. And I kind of tried to work in a little bit of Native American folklore
Okay.
with the wolf instead of Eastern European.
Combine different mythologies and different.
Right.
That's cool. Yeah, a lot of people do. A lot of fantasy authors do things like that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so they're kind of polar opposites, and they get kind of thrown together.
That often makes a good
to
story.
figure out how to work together.
Yeah, yeah. Taking two or more characters who are very different and throwing them together often makes a good story. So, okay, very cool. I see we have a couple of people watching along. Remember, post your comments in the chat for Mikaela to ask questions, learn from her wisdom and experience, and yeah. But I'll keep going. Then, what's a struggle you have in writing or in crafting? What's one of the biggest challenges for you? What do you think, other than finding the time?
Writer's block is terrible, obviously. When I get down, it takes me forever to get back on track.
Okay.
And like I said earlier, I'm kind of self-conscious about showing people my work, I guess, before I get finished. So getting other people's opinions before is kind of hard.
It is. You have to put yourself out there. There's always a vulnerability there, and I mean, I think we all, if not still struggle with that, at least have at some point on our journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. With writer's block, you mentioned, because I know you're not really a planner. You said, do you like, is that just you can't think of the next thing to do in the story, or you just don't have the motivation, or kind of a combination of both?
It's like I have a lot of the big plot points. I just don't know how to get to them.
Okay, yeah, I did some of that.
Yeah, it's the tiny little details in between that gets kind of rough.
You know where you wanted to go, you're just how do they get there?
Right.
That's the question a lot of athletes ask. That's why, like, I personally, it helps me to write things out. I know not everyone works like that, but I do like a fat outline, a big outline, you know, first, and I'm like, okay, have these scenes in my head, but how do they all interact together? I needed to organize myself, but yeah. What do you usually do to get out of that? Or like you said, it takes a while to get out of writer's block, but do you have any strategies for combating it or kind of refinding your inspiration?
I'll usually start watching a new TV show or try to pick up another book. Kind of work on something else, maybe for a little bit. Sometimes just seeing what other people are doing kind of gives me my inspiration back. Sure.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I know just other stories, or I mean, not that you want to like do exactly what they're doing, but I mean, yeah, just familiarizing yourself with stories, especially in your genre or the same type of your writing, can give you ideas and inspiration and such. Okay. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. We have a question in the chat. Diana asks, do you find yourself drawing from your personal experiences to build out your characterizations?
I don't think so. I haven't really found that to be the case. I don't, maybe in past works, not the ones that I've published, I don't feel like I really base that on anything. But past works that I've kind of worked on, I did kind of draw from experiences, especially like I lost my mom when I was really early, when I was 4.
I'm sorry.
So I kind of draw on that sometimes. A character losing a mother figure. I guess I can kind of see myself in Red, just because I was so close to my grandma too. She was the one who raised me.
Okay.
Red losing her grandmother is kind of like me losing mine.
Sure. Yeah.
Kind of had the same relationship.
Okay. Yeah, they say. I mean, you know, obviously you're putting your characters in circumstances that you haven't been in. Like you know, to my knowledge, you didn't have, you know, an abusive childhood like Jack. Or, well, I mean,
right.
I mean, I hope not. I don't know much about your background, but and then you know, I mean, you're with Red. I don't think you're Native American. So I mean,
No.
you can create characters who are different from you, but at the same time, there's just the human nature, like how people think, how people act, how people relate to each other, I mean, losing a mother or losing a grandmother or something like that. I guess those universals that we can all connect to. So I mean, I don't want to answer for you, but like I think we all, to some extent, put those things in our characters in our writing, whether we intend or not. So I mean, and that's a good thing. It's good that you're making your characters real. They have human problems, and they're struggling with things that you and other readers can relate to. But beyond the universals, you're not consciously basing them on yourself or anything like that.
Right.
Okay, good question and good answer. What is one writing or editing tip you can offer, do you think, that most people overlook or don't know?
Writing or editing tip. So this is something that I struggle with. I want the first draft to be perfect.
Sure, don't we all?
And that's just not how it works. And I think that a lot of authors think that way. They, which is probably what puts me in writer's block so often, is because I want it to be good the first time around and don't want to go through all those edits. But I think going through, second, third, fourth, fifth drafts is fine. And that's how it's supposed to be. So I guess trying to just don't focus on making it perfect
Exactly.
at first, and just focus on getting the story out, and then you can go back and fix whatever needs fixing.
That's good advice. It's also easier said than done for a lot of us. I know. I've struggled some with that too. I mean, I've done a lot of editing, but now I look back at my first drafts and I'm like, that wasn't good. Even the great writers talk about that. I think Hemingway has this famous quote about crappy first drafts. I don't think he said crappy. So yeah, I mean, we've all been there, but and I know again that there's that vulnerability of you have to face your own work and realize, okay, there's probably something good in here, something I can salvage, but a lot of this is not the best it could be, and that's hard to do. I mean, even for me still, at times, and you have to often show other people and have them, help review it or give you feedback or whatever, which is scary and hard. So do you have an editing process? Like, do you just go through it on your own, or have you worked with an editor, or have you had friends beta read or anything like that?
I don't have an editor. I usually do all of my editing by myself. I will get a couple of people to go in and read and tell me if there's like major issues,
Sure.
or if something doesn't make sense. But I personally haven't worked with a professional editor before.
Yeah, they're good ones are expensive. I mean, I think
Yeah.
they're worth it. I think I haven't gotten to that point yet either. They're worth it, but I've seen what they charge, and I'm like, I don't have that kind of money when I'm not a successful published author yet. So
yeah, that's the problem.
I don't know what the solution is to the dilemma there, but yeah, I mean, editors are much needed, but they can be a good one can be hard to get. So
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah, beta reading with your friends is often a good strategy, and I mean, at least for starting out, people can tell you what it sounds like, just how it feels, if there's anything that's off or that doesn't make sense. I've gotten a lot of good feedback from some friends like that, and from our writers group that on Facebook that you and I are part of. Writers Sanctuary. Yeah. So okay, that's good. But you have at least shown it to some people, like some of your friends, I guess.
Yeah.
And got the feedback. And is that part of what's hard for you? Part of the
Yeah, I don't I am kind of rough with constructive criticism. I know I need it, but
nobody likes it.
Someone says this doesn't make sense, I'm like, oh, okay, well, you must hate it. And
Like,
that's
yes, it
not
does. Yeah.
usually the case.
Yeah, it's hard not to take that personally. I mean, for anybody. I mean, this goes beyond writing, but I think a lot of us, just in our culture today, for whatever reason, it's easy to take criticism personally, or even just disagreement or whatever,
Yeah.
when that's not how it should be received at all. Yeah, so that's hard. I read a good book recently, and I actually read it for work. I mean, it was a writing book, and it's actually called Writing Without BS, but he spells out the word, so take that with a grain of salt. But it's got some good advice, and I mean, and as it suggests, he doesn't he doesn't skimp words. He's very direct.
Yeah.
Josh, and he said something that stuck with me, that like the editor is there not to tell you what you don't know, but to fix what you can't see. Like it's not necessarily the editor is smarter than you or better than you. That's not the mindset. And if you think like that, then you'll be taking it personally, and that's not good. But the editor is there just to reveal to you what you can't see, because you're so used to it, your eyes are not fresh. Since you wrote it, your perspective is biased, but an editor, or in this case a beta reader, just someone else who's not you, will look at it and see something different and offer you feedback there, which is often useful. And then it's your story. You can decide what to do with that feedback. If they have a point, you can be like, oh yeah, let me change something here. If what you're doing works for you, you can keep it, as long as you know why you're keeping it, and it's not just because you don't like criticism, but it's because it works for your story.
Yeah.
So good editors, or even good beta readers, reveal what you can't see, but they help you. They can help guide you in that process and give you feedback. Diane asks again in the chat, what is your all-time favorite novel? Do you want to stay in the fantasy genre? Do you see yourself moving toward another one, or it's okay? One at a time. Favorite novel, go.
I really like.
Tough question.
I really like Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe.
Okay. I'm not familiar with that. Who's the author?
Benjamin, I am going to butcher his last name. Alire Sayens, I think is how you say it. Yeah, that was really important to me. Also, The Perks of Being a Wallflower was huge for me growing up. I flew through that. It was amazing to me. As far as series goes, Harry Potter's always going to have a spot in my heart.
Sure.
And Percy Jackson.
Okay. Hard to beat the ones that you grew up with.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah. That first one, I'm not very familiar with it, but it's the Aristotle and Dante. It sounds also like it's based in this cultural mythos, but taking a new spin on it. Would that be a good assessment?
No, it's more like realistic fiction.
Realistic fiction? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So like historical fiction actually about Aristotle and Dante?
Well, it's set in 1980s Texas, actually.
Okay.
And it's got two Hispanic characters. And their names are Aristotle and Dante.
Okay. I you know what I did? I just judged the book by its cover, or otherwise its title. So I don't notice anything I'm saying. But
yeah, I really honestly just picked it up because the cover was pretty.
Sure. Hey.
But
you found one that turned out to be one of your favorites.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Second part of Dan's question. Do you want to stay in the fantasy genre, or do you see yourself moving toward horror, or are you kind of maybe blending the two, or any other genres?
I have a few ideas for the horror genre. I've been thinking about writing a novel based on Lovecraft's The King in Yellow.
Okay. I've read a little bit of Lovecraft. I've not read that one.
I haven't read the full story. I just know little bits and pieces. I'm gonna have to go and read it, but
okay.
And I've been kind of thinking of moving into the romance genre just because I feel like it sells a lot.
Sure. And if it's something you're interested in, then yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of the prerequisite, but yeah. I mean, I'm sure your books maybe already have some romance in them. I think.
Some, yeah.
Some, I mean, often that's a secondary genre to some, but yeah.
Yeah, but most of my ideas are fantasy based, and I definitely will be staying in the fantasy. I've kind of tried to expand to sci-fi a little bit, but I've never been strong with sci-fi, so
Okay.
see how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing about if you're a successful writer, you know, there are some who bridge genres or even write in multiple genres. I know Stephen King is known for his horror, for example, but he has some that are more just sci-fi, I think. Again, I haven't read a lot, but I know he has a time travel book and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Okay. Yeah. Good question. Yeah, I see we have a few others. Keep the questions coming. I was asking you last time about our your editing process. So I want to ask you also about your publishing process. Now I think you mentioned your goal is to do traditional publishing one day, or that's the dream, I guess. So far you've done self-publishing, is that right?
That's it, yeah.
Okay. So how did you know, I guess, how did you get started on that path, or how did you know which path of publishing was best for you? Can you tell us about your process a little bit?
I actually had a couple of friends who were publishing like their poetry books on Amazon, and and I just kept getting rejections from traditional publishing houses. So I was like, well, I guess I could give self-publishing on Amazon a shot and see how that goes. It hasn't been great, but I think it was a good place to start. Because it definitely helped me get the word out a little bit.
Yeah. And you have something you can sell and put in front of people and say, here's my book.
Yeah.
Which I'm still not there yet, so I get it. Yeah. Okay. What do you think are maybe the ups and downs, like the benefits and pitfalls of doing a self-publishing from your experience?
Definitely the major part of self-publishing is you have to market yourself.
Yeah.
And that is not my strong suit. And I guess if you don't feel comfortable putting yourself out there and hyping up your own work and doing all of the marketing yourself, then self-publishing isn't really great unless you want to hire someone else to do it, right. But that can get expensive.
Even most traditional publishers these days want you to do some marketing yourself, at least as I understand.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess once in a while someone hits it big, and I mean, if you're a bestseller like Rowling or something, you have a company doing that for you, but most of us don't get there. Even traditional publishers. My dad has published 2 novels with a company. He's not an overnight billionaire.
Right.
He's still working a job and doing much of the promotion himself. So that's what happens a lot of times. Yeah. But you think it's going to be a good experience for you to start with, at least to get
I think self-publishing is good to start with, because you tell your friends and family, oh, I've got a book on Amazon. A lot of them think it's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah. Not everyone can say that. That's cool.
Yeah, and then they can, and most people have smartphones, so they can just pull it out and look it up real fast, and
and they can order it. I mean, people you don't know can order it and all that stuff. Yeah. Diane asks, have you tried the European publishing market?
I haven't.
Okay, I haven't either. I don't know much about that. She mentioned that in the chat. So I guess it's different from American, or maybe different audiences, maybe different interests in different kinds of stories. I'm not sure.
Yeah, every once in a while I'll get somebody from like Germany or India that bought my book, but and I don't know how they found it, but
yeah, that's cool. No, I've seen things like that happen too. I mean, that's the benefit of having it on Amazon. You at least you're getting either to someone, at least in a small way. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Yeah. Good. Thanks for the tip. So yeah. So self-publishing is where a lot of people get started, especially these days. I know it's easier than ever, and more people are doing it, which also means there's more competition, I guess, which brings up the need for self-promotion and things like that.
Yeah.
So I know you touched on this already, but I was going to ask, and I know it's like a strong suit, but what have you done so far, or what are you doing for self-promotion, engaging your audience, anything like that? Have you tried that much?
I haven't been doing a lot lately. I try to kind of get with like I've found a few libraries that have put my book in stock, and I kind of try to set up book signings. Book signings were usually where I was getting most of my sales from.
Was it before COVID?
Yeah.
Yeah.
COVID kind of hit
a lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of parts of our lives, I know. But hopefully you can start doing those again. I know things in most parts of the country, it seems like things are starting to open up, or have opened up a lot. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I haven't done a book signing yet, so that's good. Is that do you think marketing is something you want to learn more about, or is it still just something you're not comfortable with, really?
It's definitely something I need to learn about. Okay. Just to make like appealing ads for Amazon or Facebook, because I don't get a ton of engagement when I do run ad promotions. So I guess learning how to make an ad appealing.
Yeah. There's an art. There's an art to that. I am by no means an expert. I've been listening to a few marketing podcasts the past couple of years, so I feel like I've learned a little bit. I mean, you know, the basics at least, but not an expert by any means. I mean, full disclosure, I'm still on the journey with you. You know, I don't have, you know, 1 million followers yet or anything. I'm aspiring myself and trying to build those things. It's part of why I'm putting out content like this. But yeah, can I recommend a few resources to you if you're interested?
Sure.
Some of the podcasts I listen to, and I think I've mentioned this on maybe on my one of my last calls too. There's a guy named Donald Miller. He's actually, well, he started out as a nonfiction writer, and his book Blue Like Jazz is famous, and I read it last year. It was really good. That's separate. He's now writing more about like business and marketing, but his formula is called the story brand. He understands like stories and how those play into kind of advertising. So it's like you're kind of inviting the customer to be part of your story, and like they see themselves as the hero on a journey and stuff like that. So he uses tropes in the hero's journey, but applies it to business. So it's really interesting. His book is called Building a Story Brand. Well, he has a few books out now. There's a podcast he has called It's Business Made Simple with Donald Miller, and the same business also has Marketing Made Simple with JJ Peterson, I think. So if you like podcasts, look for those. Okay. There's I know there's a site called the Social Media Marketing Podcast. I listen to them sometimes. That's probably more about like the first one was probably more about general business principles. This one's more about like making ads on Facebook and stuff like that, which I'm not an expert in by any means either. But yeah, I listened to that one. And then you may have heard the name Gary Vaynerchuk. He's a kind of business marketing guru. He does a lot of stuff, and I listen to his podcast. And he also shoots it straight and cusses a lot, so take that with a grain of salt. But he has some good things to say if you're willing to listen. So I've been listening to some of these for the past couple of years, and these resources necessarily, I'm not getting paid by them, but they've helped me and a little bit. And you know, you can find resources, you can find, you know, things that tell you how to start and all that kind of stuff if you're willing to look into it and put in the time to learn, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So for you or anyone out there, that one's free, but hope it helps. Yeah. Do you have any more like book signings or anything coming up in the future?
Not right now. I haven't really made connection with any bookstores or libraries up here yet.
Because you just moved recently. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully soon then. Yeah. Now that things are opening up. Okay. Okay. Well, yeah. Be on the lookout then, everyone in Virginia, because Mikaela's coming around. I have a couple more questions. If anyone else in the chat has some, I guess last call for questions in this chat. But I know you've talked, but what do you have in the works currently or for the future? I know you're working on book 3 of your series. Anything else?
That's really it right now.
Okay.
I've kind of touched on a sci-fi novel that I've started, but I'm not very far into it. I've kind of started working on another fantasy novel that's based on the labyrinth in Greek mythology and
Cool.
The Minotaur.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's also going to be based in Lovecraftian horror.
That sounds interesting to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So do you write like multiple projects at once usually, and just kind of whenever ideas strike you?
Yeah. Just whatever sounds interesting to me at the time.
Sure. But now that you have a series and you have a couple books published, there's a little more pressure maybe to get the next one out there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a target for finishing the 3rd book, like a target date, or just kind of as it comes to you?
I was hoping at some point this year, since I published the first one in 2018 and the second one in 2020. So I was hoping this year, but we'll see.
Okay. Because you still have to finish writing it too, right?
I'm editing. It's finished.
Okay, you said you're editing. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Just curious. Is it a trilogy or will there be more?
I'm sorry.
How many books do you envision in the series? Is it a trilogy or will it be more than 3?
I've kind of started working on book 4 too, so okay. I'm kind of expecting 7 or 8 books.
Nice. Like Harry Potter or Percy Jackson or something.
Yeah.
I should have asked you earlier. Are these okay? No, I did ask you that. They're not really young adult. I mean, maybe an older teen. You said, or teens or adults. Okay. I feel like there's an audience for that these days, though, for sure. I mean,
yeah, people who want kind of grittier, darker themes.
Yeah, but still an element of the fantastical and such.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Cool. So fun stuff coming in the future, it sounds like. Let's see, I asked you about where your books are available. You just have the 2 on Amazon, right? Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Where can people follow you and your work online? Are you on different social media accounts as an author, anything like that?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. I have the Mikaela Miller author page, and then right. I'm on Twitter and Instagram under Mikaela M author.
Okay. I'm not sure if I'm following you on Twitter yet. I need to follow you. I was looking for you before the start. Mikaela M author. I'll look for you.
Yep.
Okay. Very good. Well, you heard it here, folks. Mikaela and her work are on Amazon. They're on Facebook and Twitter, and you said
Instagram.
Okay. Yeah. So go give her a follow and support a fellow author, and all that stuff. I don't see any more questions in the chat right now. I think we're near the end of my questions I have in mind. Anything else you want to share with the people at home, or just tell about your books or your process, or anything you want to say to aspiring writers out there?
Yeah, I mean, just don't give up. I mean, your story is going to sound predictable and boring to you because you've read it over a few times, but I mean, just think that, don't think in your mind, because you're looking at it from your perspective. Other people are going to be interested in it. And so just don't let the writing demons get you down, I guess, because yeah, you're going to have self-doubt writing, but just don't give up. Keep writing, keep putting it out there for people.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Don't let the writing demons get you down. No, I'm in the same boat because I'm in like round, I don't know, 4 or 5 of editing my first book, And I'm tired of it, and now it feels predictable to me because I've gone through it so many times. But no, you're right. It's writing is playing the long game. Especially if you're hoping to have some publishing and success out of it. It's playing the long game.
For sure.
That just for most of us, 99%, it doesn't happen overnight. You have to invest the time and the resources and the energy and all that stuff. But I'm glad you're doing it. I'm glad you're on this journey with the rest of us. And so keep working at it too, and everyone at home, take that advice too. Well, thanks again, Mikaela, for being here today. Everyone at home, like my page, Samuel N. Harris, the page this video is on, for future discussions and content for writers. I do videos weekly. I try to do an interview like this monthly, so keep coming back for more. Or you can sign up for my mailing list at the link in the description. I believe it's the Clipper Maker link. When you sign up, you get a free sample of my novel, Fractured Heroes, a few of my favorite scenes that I think you will enjoy. And of course, go check out Mikaela's work too on Amazon or Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, wherever you are. So thank you for watching today. Thank you, Mikaela, for being here with us.
Thank you.
Thank you for those of you at home who asked questions and chimed in and showed your support. And have a great weekend, everyone. Have a good Friday, and we'll see you next time. Bye.